When you think of horror anthologies, aside from the original 1972 Tales of the Crypt movie and the classic 1945 anthology Dead of Night, can you name any other big horror anthology that was British? Freddie Francis churned out a few in the 60s and 70s where they had an anthology golden era.
What a time to be alive.
But there really isn't a whole lot. Since the 80s, 3 super obscure titles randomly appeared in 2011, but that's all I can find. The majority come from the States or elsewhere. So when Ghost Stories was announced, I was really hyped to see a new British horror anthology in the cinema with a ton of really good people working on it. You have Jeremy Dyson of The League of Gentlemen and Andy Nyman writing and directing, then Martin Freeman, Paul Whitehouse and Alex Lothar in main roles. Sign me up! It was originally a stage play, also made by Nyman and Dyson, that had a good 5-year run starting in 2010 and was nominated for 2 Olivier Awards before they decided to make it into a movie. The film is a little sneaky with its title of anthology, since it is more of a straightforward film than you'd think. It follows a skeptic TV presenter who meets his idol, a famed investigator that specialises in debunking paranormal cases. He hands him a file containing 3 cases that even he was unable to debunk, and tasks him with checking them out himself. That's actually a really neat setup. As a skeptic myself, the whole notion of investigating supposedly real cases of the paranormal that an expert couldn't explain is always an intriguing one. Each case he investigates plays out like its own little mini-story, which gives it that anthology feel. The first story involves a man with a sad backstory who is haunted by a girl in an abandoned asylum. It's nothing special, just a night watchman wandering the dark with some traditionally spooky ghost shenanigans, but what absolutely sells it is Paul Whitehouse's performance. He's so mesmerising in the role that just listening to him talk keeps you invested. It's like Michael Parks in Tusk. The movie doesn't really need the visuals to go along with the story, you're already so engrossed by the storyteller. I think it actually gets a little worse when we're seeing the ghost girl and it's just your typical horror flick again. It's nothing too crazy, but it gets you in the spooky mood, has some terrific acting, and sets in an atmosphere to leave you haunted for the next entry. The second story follows a disturbed kid who claims to have hit a demon while out on a drive in the woods. This entry is played more as a fun creature feature, with him being scared by this demon for the full segment. It's probably the weakest entry, but it still has an awesomely designed monster portrayed by intriguing effects, a chuckle here and there, and Alex Lothar, who plays the boy, gives a really fantastic performance, especially as the now semi-mad kid telling the story. Yet again, the acting and the filmmaking outshine the storytelling, but the variety of adding a monster to a ghost film is a welcome surprise.
Surprise, surprise!
The formula for the narrative is in full flow by this point, meeting a unique character who tells us a dull story that's elevated through how it's portrayed. The third story follows a wealthy man played by Martin Freeman as he is haunted by a spectre during the birth of his child elsewhere. It's a little dry and straightforward, but it does have the best scare in the film, and Martin Freeman is as excellent as he always is. It also has a really predictable twist after the tale's been told I won't spoil, but you can see it coming a mile away.
You're pathetically predictable.
This is more in vein of the CGI-laden horrors of the 90s. It's all about eye candy and jump scares, but the highlight, as always, is Martin Freeman here. The man can do no wrong. There's not much else to say about this one. It's the same pros and cons as the other segments, just in a different setting. It's nothing that's that clever, deep or intriguing, but everyone involved just sells the hell out of the idea to you.
$79?
Then, the film hits you with a secret fourth segment, and it's the most horrific one. I'm not going to spoil it, but the film begins to get a bit insane from here on out and spirals out of control. All I'll say is it's the type of realistic, hard-hitting horror that really cuts me deep. I have a real soft spot for innocent characters being taken advantage of with tragic ends, and I had to look away from the screen in the cinema during it. Even re-watching it for this video, I struggled to get through it. It's just so dark and executed with a supremely realistic tone that's uncomfortable. True horror at its rawest form. It does its job really well is what I'm saying, but it's far and away the most evil point of the movie. After this segment, the film has a spectacular finale where reality bends seemingly at random and ends with a twist that may make or break the movie for you. I don't know, it seemed a little cheap and unnecessary to me, but the journey getting there is so fun, I'd let it slide. After all, we got a classic slow-paced haunting, a comedic monster segment, a spectacular jump-scare-laden section, and a realistic harrowing drama. Not to mention the intriguing wraparound and batshit finale. That's a ton of variety to pack into an hour and a half. Ghost Stories is a fantastically acted, deftly crafted anthology package that gets more and more insane as it goes along. While the individual segments may be a little basic, it's the execution and sheer talent pouring out of the screen that makes it such prime viewing. I definitely recommend it to anyone looking for a fun, varied 90 minutes of horror.